In this video, I'm going to show you how to create your map using the website trizbort.io. It is a website designed to help you map out your adventure game. So just go to trizbort.io, like it says right there or up there, and click Get Started. And I probably have a map going already, so I'll just go up here to the 3 lines and I'll select New Map and get rid of that. So I'll start off with a blank slate here. So what we're going to do now is drop down or place the individual locations that the player is going to be in this adventure game. So you have to have some idea what the genre of your game is going to be. Is this a space station adventure thing? Is this a Wild West game? Are you in ancient Rome or ancient Egypt, modern day Egypt? Are you in Hogwarts Castle? Like, where are you? So you have to have some idea of that, and then you have to sort of break that up into the spaces that the player is going to be. So I'm going to kind of model like a simple castle here, and we'll see how that goes. So what I'm going to do here is just put the mouse kind of in the middle and hit click, and then hit R, and then that's going to create a new room for me. Now to change the name of that room, I just want to double click on it, and then up here, I can change the name of the room, and I'm going to call it the courtyard, or castle courtyard or something. Castle courtyard. And I don't really, I guess if I want the player to start there, I could put start room. We can always move the player around later. Lantern does not do anything with the room subtitle, but the room description, we definitely want to put some text there, and we'll fill that in when as we put down more rooms, and the descriptions the connections to the other rooms will become more obvious. And you can resize this if you want, if it helps you kind of get a sense of how large these things are. So there's our castle courtyard. Now, room names have uppercase letters. They are considered to be proper nouns. So castle courtyard, that is an uppercase. Object with the proper noun. Now, before I even get into that, let's go up to the 3 lines here and go to settings. And under the settings, let's go to map settings. Here's where you can put information about your game. So the map title comes into Lantern as the title of the project. And I don't, there's already a game called King's Quest, but I could call this thing King's Quest or something. Treasure Quest or whatever, whatever the name of your game is going to be, you could put it there, and we could always change it later, treasure hunt or something like that. Call it whatever you want. The map author, that's going to be you. And this description is the welcome message to your game, and that can be, welcome. If there's kind of an intro message you want to give the player, put it here. Welcome to Treasure Hunt. So now when I run this, or I load this game into Lantern, that comes in as the project name, that comes in as the author's name, and that comes in as the welcome message. All right, so now that we've got our map settings there, now let's put down some other rooms. So north of the castle courtyard, so north is up. So we're going to put another room in here. And what room will this be? Let's call it like the Great Hall. So castles have a Great Hall. There we go. And let's say if I go south from the Great Hall, I'll end up in the courtyard. So what this is saying, and notice Great Hall is capitalized here. And so this is saying I can go south from the Great Hall down to the castle courtyard. Now, it's very important that when you make your connections that you do this little wiggle test here, because it's very possible that it looks like your lines are connected, but they're not. And if they're not connected, they're not going to come into Lantern properly. So what else might we have in a castle kind of setting? Let's make a stable. So I'll make a location called stable. And what would we have in a stable? So let's go to the objects tab here, and let's add an object. Let's put out like a horse. In our stable. Now, objects are not proper nouns. Like, we don't want it to say like there's a horse here and the horse is uppercase. So objects are not proper nouns. They start with lowercase objects. You know, what is the description of the horse? I don't know. This is the king's trusty steed or something. Trusty mount or something. Trusty steed. Or it's an old horse used to, you know, it's an old tired horse used to plow fields or something. You can describe the horse however you want. So this description will come into lantern also. What else might we have in a stable? How about a haystack? Let's put a haystack there. Okay. So maybe we need that haystack for something. Maybe there's something hidden in it. And then let's connect up the stable to the rest of the room. Now, let's work on the description for the stable here. So if I click on the stable and I go back to info, we need to put like kind of every room needs maybe a 1 or 2 sentence description that describes the location and where you can go from that location. So let me just write, this is a stable with space for several horses. To the north is the courtyard. How about a courtyard? How about that? Courtyard. All right, so now if we're in the stable, what the game will say is stable. This is a stable which has space for several horses. To the north is a courtyard. There's a horse here. There is a haystack here. So the game will print out the room description, then it will list out what is in that location. So if you want a horse there that the player is going to be able to ride or interact with, that horse has to be implemented as an object. There has to be an object for that horse. You can't just write that there's a horse here. If you do that, and then you try to say ride horse, feed horse, examine horse, the game will say, I don't know the word horse because you didn't add a horse object. And now for the, what else could we add to our Great Hall here? What's in the Great Hall? Maybe there's a throne. So let's go to the objects here and let's add a throne. And the description could be, you know, this is the ornate throne is made from I don't know, fine wood and encrusted with gold and jewels or something, and decorated with gold leaf. Right, so we want to put descriptions on things. There we go. So now we have a throne in our Great Hall, and if somebody looks at the throne, it will tell us that the throne has that description. Now maybe the king is here, so let's add the king. NPCs are objects. The king looks regal in his fine robes, or something like that. Describe the king. Maybe the king looks tired and weary. Maybe his son has been kidnapped by orcs or something, but you can describe the king however you want, right? So there we go. And then for our description, maybe we say something like, so let's go to our Great Hall, and on info, we'll say, you know, this is the Great Hall. To the south is the castle courtyard, or is a courtyard. How about that? And then maybe we'll put a staircase over here. Maybe there's a tower, so we'll work with up and down here. To the east is a staircase, is a spiral staircase. Okay, there we go. So we wrote that there's a spiral staircase there. So let's go add a room called spiral staircase. Spiral staircase. So what'll the description of this be? Maybe we need like a torch to be able to see in the spiral staircase. So if we want a place that you need like a torch to be able to see in or something, you can click that dark box and then make that dark. So if we do that, then we have to have a light source to be able to see there. So that, you know, maybe we would put a lantern or something in our stable. Maybe we go to objects and we had a brass lantern or something, or a torch. Make a torch. Okay, so we put a torch there. And then if you don't put a description on an object, the description becomes you see nothing unexpected, which is kind of lame. But now maybe from the staircase we go up to the top of a turret. So how do we do up and down? So up and down can be anything. Let's just connect it like that. And I'll call this room top of turret. And for the description, you are high up in a turret. From here, you can see blah, 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 blah. Okay. Stairs lead down. Now, maybe for this blah, 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 blah here, you can see surrounding fields. And and an ocean to the east, to the west. Okay, so I've now described in my room that there are fields. I can see fields and an ocean to the west. Maybe how about like a wild ocean to the west? That's cool. All right. So if I mention something like that, like the player can't do anything with the fields, the player can't do anything with the ocean, but they're there, and the player might try to examine them. So in top of turret, what I might do here for objects is add one for ocean so the player can look at the ocean. And then I'll, the wild gray ocean, has claimed, I don't know, has claimed many lives, or, bathes the castle in constant mists or something like that. Mist and fog. There we go. That's a cool description. All right. And then for the fields. Description, the faraway fields, are growing, I don't know, contain, wheat, barley, and wheat and barley or something like that, right? So now, let's see. So for these objects here, let's check the little box that says scenery. So scenery objects are there to be looked at, but not really anything else. So when we're at the top of the turret, we don't want the game to say, there's an ocean here, there's fields here, because in our description, we said there's a wild ocean and there's surrounding fields. So we want these to be scenery. They're there, but they're invisible. And if the player types examine ocean or look at ocean, then we'll get that ocean description. If the player examines the fields, then we want that to be supported. If you tell the player something's there, the player's going to try to interact with it. All right, now this whole up-down thing. If you double click on the connecting line, you can say that these things are something other than north and south. So actually this is backwards. So now notice how it says down there. Let's say we want down and up. There we go. So this is saying from the spiral staircase we have to go up to get to the top of turret, and from top of turret we go down to get to the spiral staircase. Now, let's say you could see these oceans and fields from more than one location. Should you add more than one scenery object? No, just keep them in there once. And what we can do in our code is we can teleport the scenery around so it's always there for the player to be looked at. Like don't add more than one ocean, right? We can always move the ocean around later. So if the player needs to examine it, we can. All right, so now let's look at like how to do a door. So a door or a gate is modeled as a room between the locations it connects. So let's put dogs. All right. Let's call this now this is not a room that we're going to be in. Castle gate. Okay, there we go. And we can put a description on this. The gate is made from beams of sturdy oak or something like that, right? It's designed to keep out intruders. There we go. Okay, so the gate connects, the castle gate connects the castle courtyard to the well, what would be outside the castle? Let's just call it outside castle. There you go. Okay, so that's how you model a door. You model the door or a gate or a vent or something that the player is going to have to open or unlock. If it's something the player has to open or unlock, it sits between the rooms it connects. And then what we're going to do in Lantern is move the gate into the room where the player is going to interact with it. So if the player starts outside the castle and they need to unlock the gate somehow, we're going to move the castle gate into this room. But this is how you model a door. A door is an object or a room that sits between two other rooms. So when we try to go from the courtyard to outside the castle, Lantern is going to do this check to see, oh, are you trying to move through a door? Now I have to do the door check. Is the door open? Okay, yes, it is. Then you can pass through to the outside castle. Like Lantern will sort of shoot you through the door. And if you're going to do this, then let's on our description of the courtyard. Oh, we didn't even do this. Okay, so this is a wide courtyard, right? You always want to say where the exits are. To the north is the Great Hall. To the south are stables. The gate leads out of the castle to the east. There we go. So just a couple of descriptions. So when the player's in this castle courtyard, they know where they can go. They know what's around them. You have to kind of describe what is around the player, so they know which directions they can go. All right. So I think we've covered like the big things here. So a couple other things. There's a limit on how many words something can be, and the limit is 3. So you can't say this is the large castle courtyard where Henry VIII jousts, right? That's too many words. So keep your room description short, 3 words at the most. And then stuff that also comes up is, let's say you want to have a forest. It is totally fine to have more than one location called forest. So let's go to forest. You could have more than one hallway, right? So that is fine, forest. And maybe in the forest they're hooked up like this, right? So, and the description for the forest might be this is a tangled forest that extends in all directions or something like that, right? There you go. So we're kind of hooking this up. It is totally fine to do something like this. And maybe outside of our castle there's a dirt road. I don't know. There's a dirt road through the forest. I don't know. So you can see this is kind of fun. I love dirt road. Okay, so we would want to say if you're on this road, to the north is a forest, to the west is a castle, right? So let's connect that up west. Now, if you go, let's talk about room connections. If you go out on the side, you should come in on the side. If you go out on a corner, you should come in on a corner. You don't want something like this where you go out on a corner and in on a side. That doesn't make sense, because this is saying I have to go northeast to get somewhere and I have to go west to get back. If I do that, then that doesn't make really sense logically. So if you go out on a corner, come back on a corner. Can we take all these? Let's move them up here. Maybe we want something like this. I don't know. We connect the forest north to the dirt road. This is really fun. But the more you do this, right? Let's see. Oh, we got a bad connection there. What happened? All right, Right. So when you make these connections, do your wiggle test to make sure that these lines are actually connected. We found one there that wasn't. So now for our outside castle, maybe we have, I don't want to do that. Sorry, I get kind of carried away. But maybe we have another room called forest up here. That's forest. Forest. There we go. Okay. And the description could be, this is a forest that extends in most directions or something like that, or all directions. So in these locations, you want to say like one or two sentences. You are standing in a blank. You can go. You want to tell the player what's around them. There's a forest to the north and a castle to the west. Thick undergrowth blocks the south or something, right? What you want to do is give the player one or two sentences that describe where they are and where they can go. And if there's anything important there, that has to be added as an object. And then room names are considered to be proper nouns, and objects are generally not considered to be proper nouns, and therefore get lowercase. So I think we've got. So I think we got it all. We got it all there. We got light rooms, dark rooms, up and down, right? You can just click on this connection and change the little how it's labeled. If you have something that you're going to put in something else, so like maybe there's, in the Great Hall, there's a wooden chest or something. Let's see, and maybe there's going to be something in that wooden chest. Then rather than just add it as an object, maybe there's a scepter in the wooden chest. So I'm going to add an object called scepter. Just add the scepter to your world, and then later inside of Lantern, we'll move it into the wooden chest. So don't worry about putting things inside of other things right here. In Trizbort, we'll do that later. Just make sure that there's things in the world. If there's things in the world that need to be inside of containers, we'll fix that later inside of Lantern. So there you go. So there is how to map out something using Trizbort. Just make sure every rooms are generally uppercase letters. Make sure they have a short description that says sets the scene for the player and tells them where they can go. Add the objects into your game that the player is going to have to manipulate. If you describe something, like in the top of Turret, we described the fields and the wild ocean. So we added scenery objects so the player can try to interact with those, right? So, and again, it's okay to have rooms with more than one room with the same name. Maybe there's more than one statue here. That's okay too, as long as there's no chance that the player, I could put a statue in the Great Hall, and I could put a statue in outside of the castle. That's fine. Because these statues are not portable. The player can't have these two statues in the same place. You don't want to have two portable. You don't want to have two things called sword, because the player could then. If the player has both swords, pick up the sword. I don't know which one you mean, the sword or the sword. Drop the sword. I don't know which one you mean, the sword or the sword. Don't have more than one portable object with the same name. But it's okay to have rooms that have the same name, and it's okay to have objects that have the same name if they're in totally different places and the player can't pick them up and move them around, right? So if there's no possibility of these two statues being in the same place, then you don't have that problem. You're not running the risk of a name collision. And then when you're done with your map, what you want to do here is, it'll save it. Your browser will store it in the cookie, but to save your map, it is much safer if you just come up to these lines here and you say export and file, save this map to file, and then it'll download that map for you and make a copy of that. Copy that map out to your X Drive folder so it'll be safe and you can turn it in. So this is kind of what you want, maybe a little bit bigger. Just make sure your room descriptions are good. Make sure you save your map. Actually, this is kind of cool because now you could save map as export as image, right? Now you could put that in the hint book, the cheats for your game or something. Pretty cool. So there it is. There's how to make a map. If you have any questions on this, just ask, and I will be happy to help you.